I do think that we looked great today. It felt like ourselves. I could really see and hear the energy from the guys even before we got in the server. So feeling good. Feel like we could really work with what we brought today.
Hey guys, this is Pedro back with another interview covering Recent America Stage 2. Once again, I'm here accompanied by Kaplan, the head coach of Sentinels, who are coming off of an opening stage win over NRG to start off 1-0 in the regular season of that split, but right now 4-3 overall. So, Kaplan, really appreciate you taking the time. Once again, one more interview, one more W, one more. I'm happy, Kaplan. So, starting off with that, how are you feeling? How was the match? From your eyes?
Um, all in all, I thought we did great. Not only did it feel great to see all the guys shooting really well, but I think we played very smart, very tight. The mid-rounding, the teamwork. There was some really beautiful moments of it that exceeded my expectations. We slipped up a little bit, in terms of our energy and stuff. Our atmosphere, kind of our team play, our flow toward the end of that series, and I think we have some Sunset defense stuff to fix strategically as well. So nothing's perfect, nothing's free, and it wouldn't be fun if we didn't walk away with something to work on and learn from. But yeah, really pleased.
You mentioned like the beautiful thing. I mean, I just got to ask about that. What do you think was that one moment that stood out to me that you saw as most beautiful? And how do you define beautiful in that sense?
I'd have to think back. There's probably a round or two in there on attack on both sides where I just felt like everyone was contributing to an idea without contributing too much, or it coming off like multiple ideas that conflict with each other. We were taking our time. We were really thinking about how the round had developed and what the information we had was, just collaborating. And that sweet spot is a really, really hard one to hit in Valorant. And so sometimes I think we've relied more on set stuff or talent than our ability to collaborate in the middle of rounds, and that's something I've wanted us to work on a lot, and it was cool to see us do better with that today.
Yeah, for sure. And then, of course, I got to ask about the obvious second half in Sunset. Of course, you guys were up 11-3, and then NRG came back. But, before that, ultimately, you guys took the series in overtime. But more so sticking on to second half. I mean, simple, obvious, obligatory. I mean, what went wrong for the team?
I think we got a little excited, a little eager to close it out. We were a little bit overconfident. It caused us to get a little scrappy and sloppy. Sometimes we call it ketchup with ideas, putting ketchup on the Wagyu steak, just a little too much. And then there were some unfortunate moments, and then I also think they played really well, and we weren't quite ready for some of the stuff they were doing. Neon's pretty beastly, so it was not an easy agent to play against, and it was really well played by Victor too.
Yeah, for sure. Talking about Neon, it's been taking quite a big presence. With the inclusion of the new changes into the game before the start of the season. How much of an obstacle was that really? That just focusing on that agent in particular. Given Victor's play on that.
How much? Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, how much of an obstacle was the agent? Focusing just on that agent with the new changes made to it in mind.
It's hard to say. Yeah, the slide buff is definitely really good, but Neon is also just, I think, has been a really good agent, right? We've seen that from like Heretics. Like, I'll never forget. I think it might have been our first round of our series against Heretics. Neon, they attack on a Lotus, and Mini Boo runs past during a fight. He runs through everybody, through the revolving door on Lotus, and comes behind us all in the middle of a fight. I mean, there's things Neon can do and timings she can catch and stuff that are really hard to be ready for. So yeah, I do think she's stronger, but I think she's always been really good. I think there's some really good Neon players in this region, and a lot of it's just getting used to the agent and dealing with it and utilizing it, in general, more than just the patch notes, I think.
There was plenty of moments during that second half in Sunset in which basically NRG kind of spanned the exit on, I believe, B, might be A. You can correct me on that for your answer, but just how difficult was it for the team to just kind of try to figure out exactly NRG's movements, but as it kind of transpired, NRG's movement was just sort of just copy pasting for each round. So how difficult was it for just the team to kind of overcome that aspect from your point of view?
Um, yeah, it's tricky because sometimes you expect somebody to do something again, you want to have an answer to it. Sometimes your answer involves bringing different agents over, but the problem is that player hasn't been over there seeing what's happening. Like to come up with the perfect plan with utility to beat exactly what they're doing, and then you don't know if they're going to do the exact same thing again, right? Maybe the flash goes a little bit different, maybe the dart's different, maybe the stun's different. It's very hard to do. It was very difficult. It's something that I can probably make sure we spend more time in a timeout talking about is like the very micro util stuff like that. Um, and as somebody who could sit there watching it and not have to play, it's probably something I can work on too. Maybe is being more ready on the very micro level to help with the problem solving.
Of
We were
course,
definitely
looking
I
at
think it was the A side of the map where we were getting really surprised by a lot of the stuff they were doing on like elbow.
okay, okay. Looking at over into just preparation for this match, of course, when it comes to NRG, you gotta look at FNS and Sam returning to the squad after initially being part of that squad back in 2023. Just sort of, how did you guys kind of approach this match with that in mind? With FNS and just his IGLing, the familiarity with that, and an obstacle that could have might have been also in addition to that.
Yeah. Well, I guess we tried to think a little bit about the veto. You can look at the team he was on last year, right? He's a very very good IGL and has his comfort. So we tried to think a bit about how they'd play certain maps compared, looking at last year. Obviously, that doesn't apply to a map like Sunset or really Lotus as much. So the maps we played, I don't think that applied much, but we still thought a bit about how they play stylistically, how he liked to call stylistically. It's something, we can't look at a lot of footage of this exact team and comps, but so we could go back and think about how are they likely to play. Just we've seen that group play together for years. And there's definitely some stuff like fundamentally outside of any specific map or comp that we just tried to work on to deal with that. For example, like he's a really great IGL. They're a very smart team of players. I think when you give them a whole clock on an attack round and a lot of the map, they can really push and pull and mess with you. And so we really tried to work on. I don't think we did a perfect job, but we tried to work on not giving them too much space to work with, too much time to work with, things like that.
Despite that, you guys obviously did come out on top. As I alluded to earlier on in the competition, it's not the first time I've talked to you. I've had the opportunity to talk to you a few times, to sort of covering Sentinel's journey from the start up until even right now at this current moment in time. And I remember back then, at the start of stage one, in which you mentioned about how the team was kind of in a position of not being able to innovate just because of the rough schedule you guys had at that time. And with the conclusion of this match, we've been able to see a little bit of that innovation from this team. Uh, you know, Deadlock Cipher, in Lotus, stuff like that. Going in from comparing how the team was from that point in time in stage one to now, right now in stage two, having had plenty of time to rest and also just innovate, adjust from what you guys already had in the server. What exactly did you kind of focus on in order to make that happen from your point of view and stuff like that?
Yeah, a lot of it was just strategy stuff, right? Trying to figure out, you know, it's not just what's the optimal thing for us to do on any map, and that depends on our team and where we think the game is at, and stuff like that. So we had a lot of time, obviously, to work on our strategy, our comps, everything, game plans, and on top of that, try to work on some things as a team, right? Like we already know our strengths, but our weaknesses get more clear throughout a season. So we had some time to try to shore up weaknesses, have some scrim days that are less about specific strategy and more about fundamental stuff that we need to work on to kind of round ourselves out. And yeah, it definitely felt good to be back to what has obviously proven to be a comfortable spot for us coming into tournaments or league splits with a lot of time to have prepared.
Is it fair to say that Sentinels is now returning to what it was before, or before stage one, after Masters? Would that be fair to say, like, right now?
I don't ever want to talk about that stuff in the form of results. A lot of what I've tried to work on myself and with the team is not getting hung up on thinking about results and stuff. Let's just do our job. Let's have fun. Let's enjoy what we're here to do and make sure we do it well and make sure we stay growing. And I think that leads to success and a healthy team environment more than anything. And even I think lost sight of that a bit coming out of Madrid. So we've really been doing a lot of that. I do think that we looked great today. It felt like ourselves. I could really see and hear the energy from the guys even before we got in the server. So feeling good. Feel like we could really work with what we brought today. We just got to keep it up.
For sure, it's baby steps, and you guys have been able to just make that take that first step to returning to that old position. Speaking of that, from the future, um, um, three more opponents, but still they're pretty tough in their own right. Crew, Cloud9, G2 Crew first up for next week, and then after that C9. Just sort of two-parter. Your thoughts on just Crew as your next opponent, in addition to C9, and also in addition to that, with the road still ahead for you guys to qualify for champions, where you kind of see the team's kind of chances in qualifying for that event first and foremost.
Yeah, I think that Crew will be a hard game. I think for the almost 2 years now franchise, they have consistently grown and improved within rosters and with roster changes. Like that team has done nothing but be on a growth track from the start of last year at lock in. So expecting a tough game. Um, C9, same thing. They've had more time to get comfortable as a pretty fresh roster. I think I'm relieved we only showed 2 maps against NRG. I think the C9 one's going to be a tough spot for us because it's our second game of our Super Week, but their first game, I think. So we're in a spot where they get like really quickly footage on us, and we have to adapt very quickly, and then we're more in the dark. So I'm expecting kind of a unique challenge there on the coaching side, and working with the rest of the team on our strategy, and then G2, who knows, and yeah, as for our shot at champs, I don't think about it much. I encourage the team not to think about it. I don't really talk about it with the team. Let's just do our job, play well, and wherever we end up is where we end up.
For sure, for sure. And as I said, you guys took that good first step towards, reaching that point. And yeah, I'm gonna wrap it up here. Kaplan, thank you so much once again for another conversation with me this season. Really appreciate it. And of course, best of luck goes to you for the future.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Pedro.